If you're starting a podcast in 2025, you should be looking at video.
In podcasting, the number one most important thing is not video, it's consistency.
But there's a real intimacy, I think, with just audio. The visual element might mean that some people won't jump in.
If there's any young creators watching this or any young podcasters or any podcasters of any age, just post.
Totally.
Push through the cringe.
Nobody successful got to the point where they are now because they posted their videos or their podcast every now and then.
Hello, I'm Matt, and welcome to the very first episode of the RØDE video podcast, where we explore the constantly evolving world of podcasting, from behind the mic to now in front of the camera. Video has completely changed the way podcasts are made, consumed, and monetized, and RØDE has been at the forefront of this change, with industry-leading products designed to help podcasters and creators ride the video wave, including our RØDEcaster video, which you can discover in the description below, along with links to a range of the best RØDE hardware designed to elevate your podcast production. Whether you're just starting out or deep into the podcasting game, this episode will be diving into the challenges and opportunities that you might be facing right now in making the leap from audio to video. Joining me today is Mitch Churi, broadcaster, podcaster, comedian, and the host of the Mitch Churi Chat Show.
Hi, great to be here. What a ride. Did you write that?
I did not.
It's charming. Oh, you did.
I think you wrote that.
Thanks. Okay, you weren't meant to say that. You got my late additions. Thank you.
And we have Rachel Corbett, Nova Podcasts Network Director and founder of online podcasting course PodSchool.
Hello. Hi. So nice to be here with you guys.
Great to have you.
Myf Warhurst, journalist, presenter, radio and television icon, and now the host of an exciting new video podcast called The Moment with Myf Warhurst.
So good to be here.
Let's start off with you, Rach. Mm-hmm. Where do you think this video podcasting idea came from? Like, where did you notice the shift from just audio going into video?
When Google decided to stop paying attention to Google Podcasts and move into YouTube. From my perspective, video is something that's always been done in podcasting. It's always been a possibility. Joe Rogan's been doing stuff on YouTube for years. Having a YouTube video strategy for your podcast has always been available. I think this whole existential crisis of a podcast is not a podcast until it's a video podcast really came when Google leaned heavily into YouTube as its chosen platform of choice for podcasting. Google Podcasts was not kind of capturing the amount of market that it wanted to. And you can't really make money from a podcast app, but you can make money from people's YouTube videos. And so that was the shift that I saw in the industry. And naturally, as a platform, that platform wants more video content. It's going to surface more video content. There's going to be benefits to being a creator, having that video content. So that's really kind of fueled a real frenzy around it that I think is justified. YouTube is an undeniable beast of a platform with huge discoverability benefits that you cannot ignore. But that was certainly when I saw the shift to podcasting isn't podcasting without video.
And you've got next generations coming through that have only watched YouTube.
Correct.
And I think that probably plays into it as well. That's not me, because I'm still watching traditional television most of the time because I'm too lazy.
Yeah.
But the kids are growing up, that's all they watch.
Yeah.
So it's as if you need to
Well, that's
be
me.
there.
Like YouTube,
Yeah.
I grew up on YouTube. Like I grew up, it wasn't necessarily video podcasts on YouTube, but like over the last 10 years, it was like the Rhett and Link. Did you ever watch Rhett and Link?
Yeah.
I loved Rhett and Link. Or Smosh. I loved Smosh. It were these internet shows that for me felt very rebellious. And then I think it's been that natural move to podcasts. Everyone has a podcast, especially in the States. Like we've seen it stem from the States, from the UK. I think we're catching up here slowly in Australia. But I grew up watching YouTube. Like that's all I would watch. Like I'd watch TV. I had my shows on broadcast TV. I was a Rove Live boy. Like I loved watching late night, but then I'd watch the clips of the US shows on YouTube. And it's funny because they were just repurposed from TV. Like it was just clips from TV in the early YouTube days. But then now it's all video podcasts.
It's an easy consumption platform for people, you know, and YouTube definitely saw that people were consuming podcasts on that platform. It was already massive. Like, why aren't you going to lean into that? And so it is really about, like a lot of people that are watching podcasts or listening to podcasts on YouTube often aren't going and doing that in a podcast app. So a lot of people that have a video podcast are noticing that it's not eating into any of their audio downloads. It's actually exposing them to an entirely new audience. Because
I also think it's so intuitive. So when I started posting my celebrity interviews when I was still on radio to YouTube, it grew to 65,000 subscribers in 6 months.
Wow.
And it cultivated that audience of people that loved celebrity and pop stars. And I was at a pop station, so there were a lot of pop stars. So they were consistently getting that from my feed, and it just built this following overnight. And I think that's what's so good about YouTube is the algorithm is it's tight. Like it's up there with TikTok. It knows exactly who is watching, and it knows exactly what to give them next. Like if you fall asleep, have you ever fallen asleep watching YouTube?
Never.
Okay. yeah.
Never.
Okay, no, all right. Okay.
No,
don't king shame me, Rachel.
I have my anxiety apps, like the meditation. So, don't just run all night.
Storm sounds. You can do that on YouTube
It
too.
is a similar sort of thing, right? The meditation app is the same as probably for our generation, watching YouTube and having that in the background while we fall asleep.
Yes.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
But the algorithm, it's so funny. You'll fall asleep. I'll be watching a video podcast. I'll fall asleep. Then I'll wake up at 3 a.m. to a vintage episode of Huey's Kitchen Adventure. And I'm like, why is Huey in my kitchen, in my bedroom? But I will watch it. Like if I was awake, I'd be like, I'd watch this clip with suspenders.
Please,
Yes,
show
it's
me.
great.
Which is the problem with audio podcasting, discoverability, right?
Yeah.
That was always our great issue, is how do you get discovered? A podcast in the audio-only version, not driven by an algorithm. There's nothing algorithmic about listening in a podcast app. So I think this is where the opportunity is that people are finding, is that all of the video platforms are driven for, discoverability, the algorithm. And so it's really helping podcasters get their content found, because that's not how things work in a podcast app,
you're right.
which can be really hard to build audience.
So coming back to the idea of YouTube being a really great reason and that expanding the reach, that's going to then also come at the cost of having to put in more work for that video production, because with just a podcast, you only have to set up a mic, hit record, have a chat. That's great. When you've got lights, you've got cameras, it's a little bit more work. So how do you manage that sort of extra work that you have to take on? Is it worth it for these extra views?
I think definitely. I think if you're starting a podcast in 2025, you should be looking at video. But then it's so expensive. You need someone to film, you need cameras, you need to edit it, you need someone to quality control, you need a producer. It has to be done. I don't know, Rachel, I'd like your take if you think video has to be done in 2025 if you're launching a podcast.
I think for promotion, it's essential because, I have a couple of personal podcasts and I do those in the stolen hours of my life. I have no producer, no studio like I do at my job. You're literally doing it at home. And I got to tell you, the video portion of it is a punish. Because I'm setting up the lights, it's taking so much time. If I do a batch recording day, I got 8 different jumpers laid out on the table.
Yes.
I've got to put BB cream on, for the love of God. Like, none of this did I have to do previously. But when I am sharing that episode on social media, God, am I happy to have a few clips. I do not think that every show needs a full-length video version. I just don't think the ROI for most podcasters is going to be worth it for the time, the money, the effort. But in terms of promotion, I think that's absolutely, if you're going to do anything, you really need to be doing the video for promotion.
Look, I don't think let it scare you off. I think you should think about it, but I don't think you need to go full production. You don't need giant orbs of light hanging over you. You need an iPhone and you need a good front-facing light, like a window. And that is how some of the biggest shows that I listen to and some of the biggest shows in the world have started.
Totally.
We've all got an iPhone. Your friend, your co-host has an iPhone. Film it on the back camera, please. Don't use the front camera. Use the back camera, record and sync up your audio, and that is all you need, because the content is way more important than the visual product at the end of the day.
Yeah. And look, there is a sadness that, a lot of people that started podcasts just had a microphone, and it was lovely because it opened the door to so many more people that you would have never heard broadcasting, their areas of speciality. So it's sad that the visual element might mean that some people won't jump in as easily as they could previously. However, I do think there's ways around it, and I think it's about people like us going in and doing it, and I'm not the most Instagrammable of
Come
of
on
people.
now, Myf.
But you know
Don't
what I mean?
disagree.
I've seen
Don't
a Myf
you
Warhurst
dare.
photo dump.
Please.
Thanks, love.
Impressive.
But
Not
I'm
letting
a
that one
But I'm
slide.
a middle-aged lady, so the more
beautiful
people that you
middle-aged
see
lady.
like me on doing this that people will go, actually, yeah, I can do it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter so much. We need to get over this fear of ourselves and how we present. And I think if there's more normal type people doing it, that's got to be a good thing.
But that's what resonates as well. Like
Yes.
when I'm scrolling and I see a video with high production value, more often than not, I'll scroll. If I see radio content in a radio studio, subconsciously my brain knows that it's radio content, and then my brain flags. I know what a radio interview is. I know or if it's a TV show, if it's The Project, or if it's the morning show. My brain knows the type of content I'm going to get served. If it's a celebrity interview or a comedy bit, I'll know what I'm going to get. But if I am scrolling and I see two friends with podcast arms and I see them on a couch holding a microphone, my brain then again knows, oh, I think I'm going to enjoy this more, so I will stay and watch. So visual's very important. It's funny how it plays into our subconscious.
It all comes back to that authenticity, I guess, as well. If you see somebody that is engaging and authentic, then you're going to watch regardless of the quality of how it comes out. Quality can come later when you've made it work.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but what shines through always, and it always did when it was in your ears, was personality, the people behind it.
If you're a podcaster, make sure you check out the description below for links to the very best podcasting equipment and accessories from Rode, including the Rodecaster Video, the revolutionary all-in-one video and audio production console that combines powerful video switching, recording and production capabilities with a fully integrated professional audio mixer, ideal for video podcasting. And now, back to the episode.
Do you think that maybe having a video could make presenters more performative and less natural? Like when it was back just being audio podcasts, do you think the presence of a camera makes people feel the need to present themselves better in a different way?
That's really interesting. I think in your mind you want to present yourself better, but what actually is important is, you being your real true person, your authentic person, because you can actually see through people if it's highly produced, if it's, if it's not real to them, if they don't care about it, you can see that. So, yeah, I think the more you try to kind of set up those less authentic things, I think that's going to work to people's disadvantage. I think it's combining the two elements of bringing yourself and your natural authenticity and also being aware of the camera, but not letting that terrify you from doing it.
It can be quite intimidating for people,
Yeah,
I think
it
that
is.
element. And but I do also think it can sometimes help if you are a solo presenter, because if you don't have any experience in that space, that I think is one of the hardest things people have to get their head around when they're starting something out. They've never done any presenting. They've got to sit here in a room by themselves just with a microphone, present to an audience they can't see. Sometimes I feel like having a camera there almost gives you something to talk to, which can be helpful. I sometimes tell people to put a mirror up in front of them and just like talk to themselves, because it's sometimes just seeing another body. Even though it's you, it gives you that little bit of extra lift to say, oh, okay, I'm talking to somebody here. I can understand, because often people find it very hard to get that energy. We do it as presenters, right? You feel it naturally. You know how to do it. But if you're somebody who just has a great idea at home in their bedroom and you're like, I want to make this, I'm going to set up a microphone and talk to nobody, how do you embody that?
Totally,
It's very hard. So I think sometimes the camera can help with that, because it gives you something to direct your energy towards.
Like a parakeet, like when you put a mirror in a parakeet's cage.
Exactly.
With a little bell and a
just
piece
gotta
of
bang
cuttlefish.
that.
And
that's how you should treat podcasters.
But it's funny, like back in the early days of radio when I started, that's what people would come in, you'd have experts come in and tell you how you can present as well as you can. And they'd say, just imagine that microphone is one person
That's
opposite you. And that's always been the case. And it's still the case now with visuals. If you're looking at a camera, you always think of that one person. I don't think you can pretend when there's a camera on. That's the only issue. I mean, some people can, but I don't think they'll be as successful with this medium.
I mean, it brings it back to what Mitch was saying about when you scroll past, if you see something that looks a lot more organic, like two people just hanging out on their couch, even if it's just filmed with a phone, it doesn't have to look professional. Just having something there to grab your eye for when you then like to listen to the audio.
But I think at the essence of it all, it is the niche. Like, find your niche. Even if I'm watching an Anna Wintour podcast, I will want her to have amazing lighting, and I will want her to be in a Versace blazer.
And I want her to be an asshole.
I want her to be a bitch, totally. And I think we might get that. I don't know. I love to watch that. But then if I'm watching two comedians, I am so happy and I'm so down for them to be in their spare bedroom, on couches, in singlets, because I want to laugh. If it's a MasterChef podcast and it's kitchen, it's culinary, I'm like, wear a little apron. Like, I love the whole point of a good podcast and good content is that niche. So play into what works for you, but don't go be buying new outfits for a shoot. Like, that's a gorgeous blazer, Rachel. You didn't buy that for today.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, good. See? Good. I don't think you should be doing that, because I think the audience they'll see it, you know.
And it's not sustainable.
No.
You know, it's not sustainable. Like, you got to do what you can do and chip away at it, because, you know, even financially, time-wise, all that stuff. Yeah. In podcasting, the number one most important thing is not video, it's consistency. And if video stops you from being consistent, like, pare it back to what you can manage. You have to maintain that consistent episode drop. And so I think that's really important. And maybe at the start, if you're starting a show and you can't do all the bells and whistles, that's fine. Like, add things on as you go, you know. And like you were saying, it is really easy to set up your to set up your iPhone camera, to have like some basic light and just start with that, and be a bit of the thought that done is better than perfect.
Yes.
Because especially when there's visuals attached, and I feel this too, doing this professionally, I feel with the stuff I'm creating at home, sometimes I find it hard to put that stuff out because it's not the quality of the stuff that I make in my job, but it's what I'm getting done in the time that I can do it. And ultimately, I want that content to be out as opposed to never going anywhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to do it.
Well, you just nailed it. It's the content. It's nothing. It's everything else is getting it there.
Yeah.
But it's the content.
That's what resonates at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Reg, you've spoken a little bit about how if you don't have the capacity to record a full episode and edit that, because that can take a lot of time, money, or other skills that people might not have. But you've also said that it is really good for engagement to have stuff on YouTube or social media. Is there an in-between there? You're saying building up slowly over time. What are some ways that people that are potentially starting out, how could they use video to their advantage without having to video full episodes and edit those full episodes?
Well, I think film video full stop. Like, even if you're not planning to use it, you having a back catalogue of your episodes that you do have on video that you could eventually edit if you want to, or put into, even if you're not going to do anything with them because you don't have the capability to do it. It's really simple to do that, you know, whether you set up your own iPhone or you're recording with someone and you use Riverside and you record it. Really good to have that footage, and if you can't use it now, you can use it later. But then I think just focusing on short form clips as a start, and looking at YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, ultimately you need to find where your audience is, and you can use a lot of trackable links now with platforms like Podder, where you can see, like, is this social media clip, is somebody clicking on the content here, or, you know, my link in bio, are they coming through and listening, and try and work out which platforms are working for you. Because I think one of the things that we all get caught in is I've got to be everywhere. I've got to have all my content, I've got to populate content every single day, it's got to be on every single platform, and that is exhausting and truly, like, unsustainable. So I really think it's about taking small steps, starting with what you can start with your short form stuff. That's going to be a much better way to promote your show. Have the video there that you can lean into longer form if you want to later. But you've also got to understand, putting YouTube full length videos on a YouTube channel, it does not work for everybody. You are not going to see Stephen Bartlett style downloads just because you put your video of your podcast up there. It is another platform. I know, shocking. But you think you are competing with people like Mr. Beast, right?
Yes.
People who are deeply in this algorithm, the back end, their analytics, they're testing thumbnails, they're testing content, they're cutting for YouTube. You cannot succeed at that platform without paying a lot of attention to it. So the idea that you just film your video and you shove it on YouTube and everything's great. I've seen some really successful audio podcasts that have great listens put full-length episodes on their YouTube channel, and it's like, some of them have said to me, should we take it down because it's a bit embarrassing?
Yeah. But what's the answer? No.
Yeah, what is the answer?
Of course not. Of course not. It's just a different audience.
Can you hide views?
No, you can't.
I've Googled it, Myf, no. Unfortunately not.
You can't. But I think it's about you are starting your audience there from scratch.
Yeah.
Yes, you might have 1 million people over here listening to your show every month, but you are starting from zero, and this is a totally different platform. And you need to be looking at how you develop your content for this specific platform.
But it's the same on every platform. On
Of
TikTok,
course,
like you
of
start
course.
with 3 views, then you get to 500, then you get to
yes.
1,000. It's got to grow.
Yes.
So if there's any young creators watching this, or any young podcasters, or any podcasters of any age, just post.
Totally.
You gotta push through.
Yes.
Push through the cringe.
Yes.
It is the most powerful thing that I've ever learned is just
Yes.
push through, because everyone wants to do it, really,
Yep.
at the end of the day.
Yes.
So push, post, it'll grow, and the audience will come. Audience won't be there to start, but it will come if you're consistent.
The survivors are the ones that stick around and keep on going through that point. And you really have to push through it. And it can sometimes be like exhausting and you can feel cringy, but you're right. You just got to keep going, because nobody successful got to the point where they are now because they posted their videos or their podcast every now and then.
Oh, yeah. I've seen my first Joe Rogan experience clip was because he labels every episode with the number it is. It was like Joe Rogan, whoever, hashtag episode 897. And that's the first time I'd ever seen
Yes.
that man. It's crazy how many episodes
Yes.
he'd pumped out before he signed
Correct.
that multi-million-dollar
Correct.
Spotify deal.
How did we feel, though, with that whole Joe Rogan thing as, I guess, one of the precursors to what we're experiencing now, which is video and podcast as one? To me, that kind of put me off doing video.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, because I just found it it was just like radio studio, guy in a radio studio. It didn't feel very vibrant.
Yes.
To me, it didn't feel very watchable.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand why lots and lots of people were watching it all the time.
I think it's a new medium. It's why I grew up loving YouTube. You watch TV, you love standard broadcast TV, but you watch it at a certain time. You have destination viewing. You'd watch The Project at a certain time of night while you were cooking tea. YouTube is just it's different muscle memory.
Yeah.
I would never sit down to watch a full-length podcast video with popcorn and a snack and fruit slices in my bed.
Yeah.
I will have it on as I clean my room
Exactly.
or as I clean the house or I cook dinner. And then I'm listening, enjoying it. And if there's a gag or something that I think the visual aid will assist with, I'll run over and I'll rewind. I'll hit that skip back 30. I'll go tap, 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 get me another minute 30 back, and I'll watch that moment that I just loved listening because it's that extra element. It's just a completely different side of the brain. for viewing.
Agreed. And I think my mind has changed since those early days. But I was like, no, why do we have to do that? But it feels much more natural now. We're so much more attuned to watching a bit. I mean, we're on our phones while we do everything.
Yeah.
Literally, everything has to be made for people who are easily distracted, to be honest. Even I am.
Yeah, the hours of YouTube consumption on television is through the roof.
Yes.
It's higher than any other platform, and phones and laptops and everything. TVs is like by a landslide. The
That's
lowest.
where I watch a lot of mine.
Yeah.
I got a TV in my room. It's bad, but I watch YouTube on my TV as I'm in bed. It's the best.
But people consume it exactly the way that you said, whereas they're doing other things. They're sometimes going and and that's why you still need to think about the audio experience for people, because that's what I feel like everybody's pushing into video, but they're forgetting about the audio, not only the audio only listeners, but the YouTube listeners who aren't watching,
Yes.
who are in another room, but they've got their headphones on, it's attached to the TV or it's playing and they're cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like your audio still has to really work. Like that is really important. And I think one of the things to think about as well is to think about what is the experience for somebody who's not watching, because I hear a lot of content where I'm like, please stop talking about that thing that I can't see.
Yes.
I can't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. Edit that bit out of this bit. Like have it on your YouTube. You don't need to have it on the bit that I'm listening to on the podcast.
So do you think of them as separate products or videos complementary to the audio rather than audio complementary to video?
I just think you have to be thinking about your audiences as they're consuming things, and don't forget about one just because you're making a video product. Yeah. Don't forget about the people that are audio consumers. I would say, while I'm really so into this idea of like video and the potential of it and what it can bring, I am a person who listens to podcasts in a podcast app. I like to be walking. I like to be doing my shopping. For me, it is an experience that fits in with my life. That has always been the power of this medium for me. And one of the things I'm not the only person that still enjoys this, but the move to video, there are a lot of people like me who just want the audio version of what we're listening to. And so I think you have to remember that audience still exists too, as well as the video audience, and to not forget that audience,
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Myf, because your radio background like me, were you resistant to video to start?
I was. I didn't enjoy doing, because but also television. I do television, and I understand the joy and the benefits of that. So that's why I didn't think it was particularly dynamic in a radio studio, and that's why I went, why would you do that? Yeah. However, it's totally flipped in the last few years, and you kind of have to be able to do both and want to do both. And there are ways of making it more vibrant too. People put images up, they go to clips, that sort of thing. But you're right, it's also frustrating if you're just listening and you can't see that. So you do have to incorporate all the elements and probably use your broadcasting in a broader sense brain a lot more than just, this is how it's done. Be open to new ways of doing.
But then that's so hard because so many people who have podcasts don't have broadcast experience.
No.
And then it's also the budget. And then if you want to have an overlay, you've got to have an editor that can add an overlay. And then if you've got a moment in a podcast that you've spoken about that needs visual, you need to make sure it's shot, then you need to make sure it's edited. It's tough. It's expensive. So I think if you're starting out, just do iPhone, just record the podcast, the audio, focus on that, and then the video can just be supplementary. It can be an added extra and then grow.
You know, the thing about this whole shift to video that I often think about is podcasting would never have become what it's become if it was video. Because the whole shift to podcasting, the passion for it, the interest, was that it was an antidote to video, that it was an escape from the internet, that it was self-care. No other form of content, even print, like this, it has the same feeling as reading a book. If I said to you I spent my whole Sunday afternoon listening to podcasts, I would feel like that was a break. If I said to you I spent my whole Sunday afternoon watching YouTube, I would feel slightly guilty about that.
Yeah, good point.
Very good point.
Right? That screen time has been what the podcast was supposed to be an escape from. And now we're pushing it so far into it becoming screens again entirely that for me, it's a struggle within me because I'm really keen to lean into the benefits of discoverability and I understand the power of it. But I'm also conscious that the whole reason it became what it was is because it wasn't video.
Interesting. I also just think just trust the audience. They'll give them both and they'll choose what they want.
That's totally.
Right?
Totally.
Like I'm the same. I love audio. I listen to so many podcasts over video, but I also do watch video when I want to. But the majority is audio. And I think we just have to trust that the audience will find what they want to find.
And what it is with podcasts initially, it was people were choosing you. When we started Bang On, people chose to listen to us and it was very intimate and it's community. You create a community and they come back for that regardless of however you present it or however they access it. But there's a real intimacy, I think, with just audio and that it's that choosing. And once they choose you, they stick.
Do we think that potentially if we were on a podcast where we're getting guests in, is having some sort of video element to that going to be potentially an obstruction? Have you ever had guests that have wanted to not be filmed or worried about how they look on camera?
Absolutely. People who don't live in this world, who are not broadcasters in any sense of that term, i.e. they're really good at their job in their specific field and therefore come on as experts, they don't often feel comfortable putting themselves in front of the camera, and I totally get that. There's been a level of acceptance that's changed. People they realise they have to, essentially, in this day and age, but I totally get why they don't want to come on camera sometimes. It opens up a whole new level of criticism.
I get fat all the time. I get gay slander all the time. And I just didn't ask for any of that. I'm interviewing a pop star. What's wrong with you? Like, why do you feel the need to comment?
Yeah.
I think that's a whole other discussion, is the internet thinking they have a right to discourse on how people look on podcasts. It's insanity.
You absolutely get, because we've experienced it ourselves, you get why people don't want to be involved in that. I don't know if there's a way around it necessarily, if that's the only forum in which you'll get your guest, other than to maybe, have them go behind, put a mask on and, change their voice or something, like it's some sort of crime thriller. But it's a difficult one, it is. But we are in a visual world now. And I just hope that it's people, like regular looking folk, who will come on and and have the confidence to do it that might change the perception of who can and who can't be filmed.
I also
because
think,
that's slowly changing.
I think it is too. And as a culture, I think COVID taught us a lot. Zoom was amazing for what it did for access to names and to talent. And people turn up in their Uggs and a hoodie and it's fine now. It really is.
And your cat can put its, like tail up on the camera and...
Yes, you get that viral moment.
Yeah.
I want that to happen.
Totally.
Like you want the chaos. And I think pop stars and guests are way more inclined to not worry about that now, as if, 10 years ago, going on a TV show, hair and makeup, they'd been in there for 30 minutes before the shoot. I think that it's kind of on its way out. I think it really has to be.
Podcasts, I think people generally will associate it with not really making a lot of money. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So if people aren't doing it for money, what potentially are they doing it for? Is there some sort of future opportunity that they could be looking towards if they keep at it, keep that consistency that we've been talking about?
I think, there's a lot of opportunity. Obviously, YouTube's a monetization platform all of its own. So, but audience is required for that, just like audience is required to monetize a podcast. So if you are leaning into the content on that platform, you're creating it, you are, building your audience, you're spending time working out what works for your audience, and you can build that up. Like, you can make decent money from that channel. I also think there's interesting options for product placement and things in visuals that you don't have the opportunity for in audio. And that doesn't even need to necessarily be something that you're reading a script for. Like, that could just be stuff that's sitting in the background or that's in the visuals of what you do that isn't even referenced. Most of the revenue in the industry, at least professionally, has been built through dynamic advertising. And if you put video up on Spotify or you've got video on YouTube, you can't serve ads to those platforms. You can't serve ads to the video content that's on Spotify. YouTube's a separate platform of its own. So there is a need, if you want your sponsorship to go across all of the different platforms, for you to do baked-in advertising, basically. Yeah. And now, because of the way that video is going and the audience is fragmented in these separate areas, you're like, do we have to go back to baked-in ads? Which is how a lot of independent creators sell, honestly. If they're selling direct to clients, they'll often just bake it in because they don't have the technology to dynamically serve their ads, or it's just easier to bake it in. But it's really interesting from an industry perspective now, that shift back to something that we were all like, oh, this is really just too basic a way to sell, that we're now thinking, okay, well, maybe we've actually got to go back to that model because it's the only way to get an ad into every single piece of real estate, because of the way that the audience gets fragmented when you're uploading video.
I'm finding that brands are really keen. They're really interested. So for my show, for the Mitch Churi Chat Show, we're launching as the Mitch Churi Chat Show powered by Appliances Online. So I took it to the brand, and they were so excited about the idea of video. And transparently, they were like, we don't really know how it could work. And I said, same. So would you like to work together?
Yeah.
And they loved it. And they were like, let's try this. And if this works, do a host read, do it baked in. And if it doesn't work, let's try this. And then product placement works. It's Appliances Online. I thought, well, we're having celebs come into the show. Why don't we get a coffee machine from Appliances Online? I can make them a coffee when they arrive, and then it can be an organic mention. Love it. And it's just those moments that brands, I think, are excited to play with, that I'm finding is working. I'm talking with a bunch of other brands that love those moments. And on my set, we built a set for the show. I have a door. I was really adamant that I wanted a functioning door. I really wanted a door, Myf.
Yeah.
I got my door.
I love it.
And I'm thinking, well, then we need to go to Ring Doorbell. And we need to get the Ring doorbell on the door, and then we can have a celeb behind it. They can ring the door. And it's just all these avenues for commercialization that didn't exist when it was purely audio now exists with video. And I'm finding it exciting, but genuinely shocked that brands are excited too, that they want to work with it and play around.
That's so good. Like, you could give your first couple of guests a pizza maker on their way out.
Right?
Like, that's amazing.
Totally.
Congrats. Not like they wouldn't want it.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't take it. It'd be an empty box, of course. It's all a prop. But yeah, I just think it's fun. It's exciting. And I think the good collaborations with brands come from that kind of open dialogue play, because podcasting, even if it's an existing show and you've got your audience, results can vary, downloads and listens, and especially when you're talking commercialization. So I think if you have that open dialogue with a brand to start, especially delving into video, which is so new for all of us, is the best way to do it.
But that's probably a really good time to be doing it while it's new, when brands are still saying, we don't really know what this space is. Like, that's the perfect time to be working with a brand, because once they feel like no, we know this space back to front. Well, you're going to get a whole long list of things that you need to do. And like some of them are going to be like too rigid for you. But if you're in the space where you can go, hey, I'm experimenting with this and they're happy to experiment. Do you mind if we do this? Like that's when the real creativity, I think, can happen. So it's a really exciting opportunity to be able to work with brands on something that feels new.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that knowledge, when they become cluey as to how everything works, that's kind of the death of the medium in a way, because once you start making money, the thing that pays for it, but the people who are paying start to have input, that's where the creativity kind of goes out the window to a certain extent, unless they're open to those new and fresher ideas, because then you get bogged down in the, we have to do this and we have to do that, which is fine. You tick all those boxes, but it also sucks a bit of the life out of what you're making.
Yeah.
And I think radio has suffered because of that. And I also think that television has definitely suffered. And that is why this area is very exciting, because people still don't know. And it allows for that, that's where people grow their love, when they see people just doing things that are different to how they've always seen it.
Do you think it'll stay like that? Because with radio, and you said this earlier, Myf, and I loved it, that you and I, like radio, and you, Rachel, doing broadcast TV, we would put on a radio show and commuters were listening in their car traditionally, and they'd have us on at a certain time, and that's it. And you got two other networks, and you choose between 3 or 4 duos that you like. But if you're driving, you're going on a road trip, you've got millions of podcasts that you can choose from. There are so many. So do you think the fact that podcasting is ever growing and there is constant choice, do you think we're ever going to get to that point where there's fatigue on it, like there is with radio or TV? Or because I think it's just podcasting can be so many different things, and it can change, especially with brands and with different talent. I don't know. I don't think it can go as stale as quickly as broadcast TV or as radio.
Well, there's not as many stakes in it at this point.
Right.
I think there's it's coming from everywhere. So there's not like one big organisation that owns it who's going to decide how the money's spent or how you should be. And I think that's probably a good thing.
So many independent shows out there.
It's always going to be fresh. It's always going to be, there's always going to be a disruptor that comes into the medium, because it is still accessible. It's not decided by, a silo of people sitting on the top floor of an office.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's going to keep it fresh and relevant and dynamic, and that's what people want to watch.
It's all driven by consumers, right? Like you're just going and choosing what you want to listen to, and now consumers are saying, well, I'm on YouTube a lot, so I'd like the content to be here, please. And so creators are like, okay, all right, well, we're going to have to be there because that's where you want to consume it. So I think the fact that the power is in the hands of the listeners, the viewers, that, it's hard for that to go stale.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to go where your attention wants to go.
Yeah, I agree. Also on that, the listener holds all the power.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had messages before when I ran ads that the audience didn't think aligned with who I was or what they thought the show was. And we've removed the ads. And it doesn't happen on radio, on TV. You're never going to call up and demand that an ad gets removed. And you can lobby, it can happen. It's not going to get removed. But on a podcast, I've done it many times. Or I'm held accountable from my audience for things that I've said on the show, or things in old episodes in the back catalogue from 4 or 5 years ago that they go, you said this, and you go, wow. Like the audience in podcasting holds a lot of the power.
Yeah, the worst is when they go into the reviews to say it though. I'm like, don't put it in a review.
That.
It's this is not reviewing the show. It's a dynamic ad that is inserted. Like email the email address of the podcast.
Then I got to call my auntie and uncle and go, can you go to the podcast app? You need to hit the 5-star, then write something. And then you got to bump it back.
Mitch, you're using your audience on social media to create your show.
Yes.
You're not just sort of blindly doing what you want to do. You're actually putting it out there and saying, hey, audience, what do you want this to be? What would you watch? Give me that information and I'll use it to make a show that you would want to watch. How are you sort of navigating that?
Well, truthfully, that just came from anxiety. That came from me sitting there going, I want to do a chat show, but people are going to think, who does he think he is? It's on a podcast. This isn't on TV. Poor kid couldn't get a TV job. All these thoughts running through my mind, and it was killing the whole vision. It was killing the creative process. So I just thought, instead of creating this show in darkness and dropping a preview trailer the night before or the week before and going, guess what? The Mitch Churi chat show happens next week and we have Tones and I as our first guest. I thought, well, I'll just post the genuine process, and it resonated, it worked. And I'm genuinely taking on the feedback from what people are saying. And it's been so fun and so rewarding to make this in real time, you know? Like it's great. I never thought it would work. And
you're doing everything from like asking, you had this idea about you wanted a door on the set, you're putting it on Instagram and saying, I kind of want this door. Is that a good idea? You were pitching ideas for the jingle that's going to play at the start.
The sound of the show, yeah. And I've had people reach out and offer to like pay for the music licensing, and I've had the sound that we're using is fan made in the end. It's the sound that a fan made. Tones and I bring her up, but I've interviewed her a bunch of times. She saw it. She's using her gospel choir to make a jingle for the show.
Oh, cool.
So it's all come from posting to the internet and socials. It's also helping a lot with guest pitches. Like my show is 2 episodes a week. One is a culture digest, pop culture content heavy, me and a co-host. And then the second episode is a guest, a celebrity interview. And we are finding it so much easier now pitching in with this back catalogue of content on socials that we can say, look at this groundswell of support and interest, and we're getting a lot more back now. Before it was a blind pitch. There was nothing to pitch with. There was no show. So yeah, it's only benefited me.
You've been using the audience to sort of create your show. Myf, you're also creating a show. Tell me about maybe similarities or differences in creating your own show.
Well, lots of similarities, but it always comes back to community. And I think you're creating it and you're asking people to have ownership. And I think back to, old school TV, when we started Spicks and Specs, the TV show, we were terrible. Like, we didn't know what we were doing, and it didn't begin when social media was around. It was that long ago. And so we had that space and that freedom to create without that criticism. But people sort of watched us grow and evolve, and then they felt like they had some sort of ownership over us and that.
Yeah.
So people like watching you grow and evolve.
And fail.
And sometimes fail, but then get up and do it again. Like Rach says, you got to keep doing it. No one's perfect. And I think that was part of the appeal as to why Spicks and Specs really took off. It's because they saw us just having fun. We weren't perfect by any stretch. Like, the ABC was going to take us off after the 4th episode, I think, as far as I know, because it was pretty shoddy. But we got there. And fortunately, I have a beautiful community that I think has watched lots of things I've done that are different, or been involved, like my beautiful Bang On audience, the podcast I did with Zan. They're gorgeous, and they'll come on board, and you know that after a while. So once you've got your community, again, it's always the listener or the watcher.
I think the advice is just do what is authentic to you. That's what felt authentic to me, and I had to do it because, like I said, I was going crazy. But if that's not, you don't have to do that. You don't have to promote it that way. It's just that's what worked for me, and it was the first thought I had, and then I went around and thought of other options, but I landed back there. So I think your first thought, I subscribe to that. Like, my first thought is often my best thought, and I always end up going back to it. So.
Exactly. And that was my thought for the moment as well. It's like there's nothing, my world is music, pop culture, the cultural landscape, dissecting it, looking at it in a funny way, but also, I bring a lot of knowledge and history to those thoughts that I have and want to share. And yeah, I just want to be able to share that, but no one in podcasting necessarily, not in Australia, are doing it on a really regular basis, like, 3, 4, 5 times a week. Not necessarily long episodes, but short. So
yours is daily?
I'm hoping it will be eventually. I know, but also that's utilising a radio skill that I have, is to create a lot of content quite quickly.
Yes. Because
I'm comfortable in that place. So it doesn't bother me that I have to do what in podcasting world or video podcasting world seems like a lot.
Yeah, and you need to be passionate about what you're doing. You're going to be passionate about this daily one. You're passionate about your new chat show. And so really, as long as you're passionate and you care about what you're making, that's what's important. And so for people that might be starting maybe a new podcast, you actually have PodSchool.
I do, indeed, yes.
How to actually create a podcast.
Yes,
Tell me a little bit about that.
I've run it since 2016, and I started running networks in 2017, so it's been a side hustle. I had one glorious year of working on the business, like only on the business, and then it's been side hustled ever since. But I'm just I used to teach radio and podcasting after I got out of radio and into podcasting. Back when you mentioned something earlier, Mitch, that really resonated with me. When I started podcasting, everybody thought, oh, God, that's so sad. You can't get another radio job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that the business would become what it was. But then all of a sudden in 2017, I ended up the only expert in the space. And everyone's like, how did you know? I'm like, I didn't. I fell into it. But yeah, so PodSchool's been around since then because I'm just so passionate about teaching people how to do it, but teaching them how to do it the right way, because so many people jump in. I think the stat is like 7 episodes they last and then they drop off. And, when people are saying, there's millions and millions of podcasts out there, you could never compete. There's only about 300 and something thousand live ones.
Is that true?
Yeah. There's way less than there are blogs and YouTube videos. And, it's actually a way less cluttered space to succeed in. But the reason is that the vast majority of people jump in, they go, I can't actually, I'm not making like $50,000 on the first week. I'm not, where are my 500,000 people? So they don't realize that consistency is required to have your show be a success. And I hate nothing more than watching people who are like, I really want to do this, jump into something and then feel like they failed when they didn't. They just didn't know what they needed to do.
Is there like a top 3? I want the advice. Like, what do you, like, seriously, I think what you've done with that school and what you do at Nova Podcasting is incredible. You're very good at what you do. There are so many successful shows that have come under your guardianship. But is there a top 3? Like, what do you tell people when they say, hey, I don't have an audience, or I've got 20,000 followers on TikTok. How can I turn that into a podcast?
Well, my main thing is always consistency, because I think that's the one thing that people underestimate and that they don't plan for. So, if you want your show to build audience and that's your number one goal, that show's going to need to be on ideally 52 weeks a year. Yeah. So if you have enough content for that, that's something. If you have enough time for that, that's something. That's always my number one. My second thing is always have you thought about, does this have an audience? Because the majority of shows that I see fail are because they were based on ego, not audience. You're thinking about what you want to say. You're thinking about something that you think you're funny at the pub. The number of times, and we would have all had this having worked in radio, the number of times people come up to you and say, oh my gosh, somebody told me I should be on radio because I'm really funny at the pub. Yeah. I said, I would say, mate, if that's what it sounds like the work is, then we're doing our jobs real well.
Yes.
Because a lot of work goes into actually sounding like you're just naturally funny at the pub. So I think there's some people that go in like that, not actually thinking, is there an audience here for this idea? And what does that audience want to hear? Not what do I want to say to that audience, but what do they want to hear? And so those are the sort of main 2 things, I think, the consistency, thinking about the audience, and then just making sure you've got an idea that has legs. Yeah. I'm always like, if you're going to sit down, get a piece of paper, put 52 numbers on it and see how far down that list you can get with episode ideas. If you're getting to 2 and you're struggling, move on. Yeah. You need a new idea. If you've got 15, 16, 25 and you're like, okay, there's something here, this will be able to live. But that's something I think a lot of people don't anticipate, is how hard it is to come up with content. We know it, we've worked in the business, you can do it, but it's like not every great idea has enough content to last,
Creating content is exhausting. It's not just the doing of it. It's not just the sitting down. It's the 24/7, especially when we were back in radio. It's the 24/7. You go out for dinner. Is this content?
Everything's content.
You do. Have I got a story here? And sometimes that can get to, you're living in a bad place if you're doing that all the time. Yeah. That's not healthy. But your life is content if you're creating content. And you've got to be able to mine from it, but also manage it.
Chance to plug whatever you are working on now. What should people go and see? What are you working on?
The Mitch Churi Chat Show has just launched. We're a couple weeks in, and you can get 2 episodes from us every week. So we're doing full-length interviews on YouTube. So it's the Mitch Churi Chat Show. Search it wherever you get your podcasts. And we're also doing culture catch-ups every week as well. So if you love pop culture, if you love celebrity, if you love internet, it's the show for you. So it's everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. That's me, guys.
I'm sure we're all excited for you and your show too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The moment. And as I said, it's going to be a very regular, hopefully, little video podcast that I'll do daily, and all the things that I love to talk about: music, art, popular culture, similar vibes. I mean, that's our world.
Yeah.
And special guests, people who are experts in their field, I'll be getting on, because obviously I can't do everything. And also people who are having their moment. It's going to be the most authentic thing to me that I've ever done. I've always worked in traditional television and traditional radio, and there are a lot of very legitimate concerns that people around you have for what that broadcast should be, whereas this is driven by me. This was my idea. It was a very simple idea, and I saw there was a gap, and I went, oh my God, there's a place for this. Also, I'll be able to be 100% myself, and not that I ever wasn't. I've never been able to hide behind this personality. It comes out regardless. But it's me. and it's on my shoulders, and I've never done that before, and I'm so freaking excited.
Where can we find
excited. You'll be able to find it on all the same platforms, and it's through MIK Studios, who are based in Sydney, and they've been fab to work with as well. So we're working together on a dream.
Well, my bosses would kill me if I did not mention that if you need a good podcast, go to Nova Podcast, search, because we got plenty of them. If you are an independent creator and you want to start a show, like PodSchool is where I help people do that. Then I also have a couple of independent podcasts, PodSchool, for my course, and then also Me and My Tiny Human. So I am a solo mum by choice and had my kid 2.5 years ago, and found that it was a really interesting space that I honestly, once I had a kid by myself, I was like, oh, all of these people, oh, you did it too, you did it too, you did it too. Or there'll be people coming out of the woodwork saying it's something that I really want to do. And so I just felt like, oh, there's like an appetite here for a show that talks about this experience. Anyway, I've done the old batch record, set up the lights, done all the videos. I've got the 8 episodes for the next season down, but there is a season already out. So hopefully, who knows, by the time this video drops, there might be a season out. Just depends on whether I can get my stuff together to get it done. But there's already one there that you can consume.
You've got a lot on.
Got a lot on. Got a lot on.
Yeah, we're all busy. We're all stressed. This lighting's helping with the eye bags. Podcasting is stressful work.
One piece of advice for either podcasters or video podcasters, what would that piece of advice be?
Ooh, that's big. Just create, just post, just make. If you want to write a blog, write a blog. If you want to start a TikTok, start a TikTok. If you want to make a podcast, and the pieces of the puzzle will fall into place. I was very much coming from radio, commercial radio, working with a big network and having support for all my career. Like I started at 19 at KISS, left at 29. And I'd only known my creative self with a team, with an audio producer, with a video producer, with producers for content. And I didn't realize, I took it for granted. I mean, they're incredible, the work that those people do. They make the product. So now coming out, and I'm very lucky to be working with Acast for the Mitch Churi chat show. Those guys are incredible. But make and ask for help, and talk to friends and talk to your network, because they will help and it will happen. Myf, we're theatre kids, we're drama kids.
Totally. We'll turn up for anything.
We will. We really will.
And we're happy,
Yes.
we're happy to share our knowledge. And that's the other thing. Ask people for their knowledge.
Yes.
And that people love sharing that.
I would probably say there is no silver bullet. There is no easy path. Like nothing comes easy. If you want to be successful in any kind of space, video podcasting, audio, social media, right, you have to do the work.
Yes.
Like there's no other way. And I think every time something new springs up, everybody thinks, well, it's just going to be instant success for me. And success comes from sticking at it and maintaining the consistency and doing the work. And that's the only thing I've ever seen pay off in my 20 plus years of doing this. So, it's that's the key.
Great advice. Thank you so much, all three of you, for coming in to have a chat with us and providing all of your wisdom and knowledge. And it was so great to have you all here.
Oh, great to be
Thank
here.
you.
Considering we all hate each other, we did really well.
We did really well.
To push through. Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't come across in the video.
No, I don't think it will. No, they can edit eye contact with AI these days. Good luck with the show, Myf.
Good luck with your show.
You guys.
Yeah,
Good
all
luck.
the best,
It's going to be
everyone.
great. It's
Thanks.
going to be
Yeah.
great.
Will you come on mine?
Absolutely.
mate.
Great.
Absolutely.
What else have we got on?
This episode of the RØDE Video Podcast is a RØDE content production recorded in Sydney, Australia. The RØDE Video Podcast is produced by Cade Robinson, Ian Camilleri, Ming Ing, Heen, and me, Matt. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more RØDE content just like this.